A few days ago, I was in the hospital and have been feeling weak since. I wasn't sure if I should give this talk, not being able to deliver it the way you deserve. But I figured that my topic is exactly about these situations, being uncertain about your readiness to act, but doing it anyway. I want to tell you a story of a conversation that happened many times between many people. I've had it with my family, with friends, I've had it with strangers. I even had it with myself a few times already. I might have it again in the future. This conversation contains many of the most important questions that are impossible to answer. It yearns for self-love. It holds so much fear and such a want for its own end to provide the answers once and for all. When it happens, you realize two things. You're probably lost, looking for your sense of identity or your values. But at the same time, it's wonderful because it means you will find your solution. Here's how it usually goes. I was talking with one of my friends. We had stayed up late in my kitchen drinking one tea after another. At first, it was not a serious conversation, just a catch-up. We were discussing what we were up to when suddenly my friend opened up and revealed that he had no idea what he should do with his life. That he felt barren and totally lost. He was looking for his first full-time job, and while he did want to take action so badly, he had no clue what he should do to make sense of his life and find direction. He was frustrated and helpless, calling himself a loser. So I asked him about the situations and the things that he has already done and be active in. What brought him joy, what he was the most proud of, what interested him, and what his passion was. He shook his head and said, "Every time I tried to do something that was important to me, every time I dedicated myself to something, it always turned out to be a failure. Everything kept falling apart, and eventually he started doubting himself so much that he no longer thought he could create anything of value. Moreover, he didn't feel any passion for anything. While he was interested in many things, none of them seemed to be important enough to focus on or to make a career of." I could relate to this problem. It had touched me, my friends, and others. We often had felt this strong drive, but we didn't know how to act and what to do. I've actually observed it from people of all generations. You could say we were burdened with overly high expectations from ourselves or society, which held us back, often stopping us from doing worthwhile things. And that made us call ourselves losers. And if we did it often enough, we actually ended up believing that it was true. We understand reality through language, and some languages are better equipped than others to address emotional concepts. For example, Russian has 6 words for nostalgia, each of which comes with a subtly different meaning and origin. In my native Polish, we only have one word to describe all the varieties of nostalgia, which, for example, means that we long for our lovers and our friends with the same word. This word doesn't include any distinction between either the intensity of these feelings or their sources. I think now we can all agree that misinterpreting your feelings towards somebody as a potential lover when they are really just a friend can cause you some problems. But believe me, calling yourself a loser when you're really just a temporarily confused person also leads to some serious consequences. Language does not always give us the right vocabulary. We need to work hard to correctly identify and understand our feelings. The better we can describe our feelings, the better we can understand them, and thus not let them mess up our lives. In the words of American journalist Flora Lewis, learning another language is not only learning new words for the same things, but learning another way to think about things. This is just as true as when we are talking about ourselves in our native language. The words we choose, the way we talk about ourselves to ourselves impact our own sense of identity and value. Once we start to understand, embrace, or even love our own emotions, we start to develop self-belief. When we feel internal chaos, the first and best thing to do is to trust ourselves and listen. It is through recognizing how lost we sometimes are, which people often refuse to acknowledge, that we can begin to find the answers to the most important questions: who we are and who we want to become. As the leadership consultant and psychologist Sukon Graham said, when you know what really matters to you, you start to understand your core being, and you then know which way to go. What do you care about, and what values are the most decisive when it comes to your actions? This is fundamental to a strong sense of self-belief. Self-belief and self-confidence are both important. But self-confidence without self-belief is like a house built on sand. Self-belief is this honest, modest feeling that you, as a person, are strong. And you are strong because you know yourself very well. When you believe in yourself, you're honest with yourself, and you trust in your values, you feel each day with doing good, you accept what you cannot control, and you learn to be kind to yourself. Then finally, you take the responsibility for your life. This way, you're building a good, healthy environment for positive change to come at the right time. And if it turns out that you don't really know how to do something, well, thanks to self-belief, you've got enough to support yourself with and take the action. When you believe in yourself, you are creating the foundations on which you can then build your success. And now is when the second factor comes in: self-confidence. It is made up of your qualifications, your knowledge, your skills, and experiences you've gained through your work. The difference between self-belief and self-confidence is as basic as the difference between faith and knowledge. Faith begins when the facts end. Self-belief works where self-confidence fails. Let me give an example. I once had a conversation with my older brother, and he always seemed to have everything planned, which, as I thought, made him follow one direction and be successful. The apparent order in my brother's life contrasted with the diversity in mine. I often felt stressed that my life wasn't going to be as successful as his. I knew my brother was coming home for Christmas. I was excited, and I told him about my projects, my charity work, jobs, and I told him how fulfilled I felt. He listened to me and said, "Sounds great, but nothing concrete, is it?" I felt gutted, and it got worse the more I thought about it. I started to question everything I've done so far. Did my activities have any purpose? Maybe everything that I'd done was just a waste of time. Should I have focused on just one thing? Will I achieve anything? It was a nightmare that lasted a few months. I talked to my friends, my family, analyzed biographies of people that I admired, looking for answers. Here's what I learned. Life is often a constant search, trying out new activities and challenges. This is not only normal, it's desirable. People who take action, challenge and test themselves in new situations are successful in their own eyes, and often in the eyes of society too. The lack of order is their strength, not weakness. Finally, I understood what my drive was, what motivated me, whether working as a volunteer or as a part of my career. What was and is important to me is to help people. And I know I will work as hard as I can, as long as the goal of helping others is at the core. That is what really matters. How will I do it? What will my job be? It's not as important. This is just the means. And now you see, that was when I thought that I lost my self-confidence. I doubted in all of my qualifications, and I felt confused. But my self-belief kept me going, and in the end, it helped me to find my direction. Before I close, let me tell you that this idea doesn't fix all problems. A year later, a person that was very important to me passed away. Even if my life goals were sorted, my personal life crumbled to ruins. I started to question the sense of my existence, and I know it's extreme, but sometimes you need to go extreme to learn something. Getting back from this state of misery really took time. Grief and endless pain cannot be solved in a few days or even months. Over time, step by step, hour by hour, month by month, I found my way. Your path may be different. There's no one blueprint, no one ready solution. It takes time. This approach can be used even when your self-confidence vanishes, or if you feel that it had never existed. It can be used both in your professional and personal life. It is through self-belief, on which self-confidence can be built, that you find the direction you are looking for. It might sound simple, but it's not so easy to follow. I have no dramatic call to action, no 3-point list to implement now. This attitude is a state of mind, not one of action. The goal you are looking for is within you. You just need to become ready to realize it. And in the meantime, you might and probably will feel helpless. But as Viktor Frankl said, life itself is a goal. Finding your way isn't easy. So give yourself permission to feel lost, to redirect your lives multiple times and feel completely okay about it. Give yourself space to have this conversation as many times as you need. Because in the end, it's only you who can create your life exactly the way you'd love it to be. So choose your vocabulary, believe in yourself, learn as much as you can, be active and work hard. Not to discover your goal sooner, but to live with joy, to give a part of yourself to others, and simply to be a human. Thank you.